My name is Anne Sermons Gillis, and I am Vice President of the Theosophical Order of Service in America. And I've been interviewing our members so that we can get to know them, and the people that come after us can know them too. This is our legacy project, and I'm very happy to welcome Barbara Reiff today. She's been a member for as I've said, over 40 years. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, and I'm glad to be interviewing somebody I know so well from my own stomping ground. Where do you live, Barbara?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. And tell me about your study group. You're in the study group there.
Okay. I'm a member of West Houston Theosophical Study Group. We're 32 years old, and we are still around, though many of our members have died or have moved away. We still study theosophy.
That's wonderful. Wonderful that you've been there. And how long, I know that you're the leader of that group. How long have you been in that position?
Since inception.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Folly Engineer and I started the group, and it grew from there.
Okay. That's wonderful. We're going to go back to the beginning again. And where were you born? Were you born in that area?
I was born in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, and then moved to Colorado, where I first joined the Theosophical Society in the Mile High Study Center.
Okay, that's great. Well, so you were born in Chicago, which is really close to our national headquarters, which
Yes.
you probably didn't know about that when you lived there, though, did you?
I knew of the Theosophical Society from some of the literature that I read, but I didn't know that it was still in existence at that point in time. But occasionally I would pick up a theosophical book, or when I was studying esoteric history, it would always mention the Theosophical Society.
So you had a curiosity, probably from when you were young, it sounds like. Were you raised in a religion?
My parents were secular Jewish, so they were very open to exploring world religions, world philosophies, and they encouraged me to explore.
That's that's unusual. That's great. So, when do you think officially that your spiritual search started?
It started when I was 15 years old. I always had a curiosity. And in that point in time, it was all the rage for high school fraternity parties to bring in hypnotists, and we would watch the hypnotists. Thought it was really interesting. But then the summer I turned 15, I went away to sleepover camp, and I was a counselor in training. My job was to watch the children, 10-year-olds, until they had their physical. And we were always the last cabin called. And the children, I had to keep them still 3 hours until they had their physical. These were 10-year-olds. So the first day I said, does anybody here want to get hypnotized? And I had to explain what it was to them. And they said, cool. So I tried hypnotizing them, and one girl went under so easily, and everybody was amazed. And she brought us through several lives and how she died in each life. And each week she would continue with the stories. The voice stayed the same, the inflection of the period of time was a little different in each one. And we got to know her previous lives. And those kids didn't move. They were fascinated, absolutely fascinated. So my parents, when I got home, were very worried. We're going to get sued by the girl's parents, etc. Nothing like that ever happened. But they brought over a friend of theirs who was a psychiatrist um, in Chicago. And he said to me, "Did you bring her back to emotional experiences?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "You better be very careful with that. You're not a trained professional taking them out of that emotional state that they're in when they talk about their previous lives. Well, my parents just, oh my gosh, that was the wrong thing to say to me. But ever since then, I've always wanted to know, is there a continuation of consciousness? What happens when we die? Um, what goes on and what remains? Do we carry memory with us, or is memory transitory?
Those are interesting questions. I just was reading something in a book about someone that had a heart transplant. And when they had the heart transplant, it was a young woman, and she had the heart of someone that had been murdered. And she started having nightmares about being murdered. And it was so powerful that they contacted the family of the girls that had given the heart, and the woman that got the heart, the young woman that got the heart, young girl that got the heart, was so specific that they reopened the case, and they were, from her description of how she was murdered, where she was murdered, and what the guy looked like, they were able to find and arrest the guy. And this was all from a transfer of a heart, heart transplant. So memory is something that we really don't know everything about, because there's so many different possibilities that we don't know. So your curiosity has brought you a long way, I know. Did you have, so as you went on your search, did you have any teachers that influenced you, living teachers that maybe taught you or you studied from that influenced you?
Well,
It,
of course, Blavatsky. And
well, she
Blavatsky,
was not did you have any
okay, you're talking about living.
living right now?
I had a meditation teacher in Denver who strongly influenced me because she was able to read the energies of the group and knew what needed to be done after we finished with meditation, whether we needed to talk, whether we needed to go out to eat, whether we needed to be frivolous, or whether we needed to be very serious. And she played a profound part in my spiritual search. And from her, I went to the Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship, where she was one of the keynote speakers, just to support her. And I went and heard a lecture. I took a class from a college professor in Minnesota who kept quoting Madame Blavatsky. And the quotes resonated with me. So when I got back to Denver, I looked at the adult education brochure that was out, and lo and behold, there was an introduction to Theosophy. However, only two people besides the teacher showed up, and he said, "That's fine." And we really had an in-depth initial course into Introduction to Theosophy. And from there, I joined the Mile High Theosophical Study Center.
Well, it sounds like maybe that teacher, the one that you had, the living person that was helping with the meditation, that would set your mind in a way that you would want to use your intuition. You saw intuition in action. And so I'm thinking that was really good modeling for you to see someone that was really very accurate using their intuition, which is very important at living
Yes,
a philosophical life to
yes.
be in touch with our intuition. I think one of the most important things. So now that, what about other teachers? You said that Blavatsky, do you want to say anything about how that influenced you?
Well, Blavatsky, when you sit down and read her, should be read in short intercessions rather than to sit there for hours, because it is so dense with material that my favorite theosophical books are the collective writings, because in the collective writings, she addresses one, maybe two issues, and she's very succinct, and her language is not obtuse, but very pointed, far more pointed than she is in The Secret Doctrine or The Voice of the Silence, etc., or Isis Inbound.
Oh, cool. That's good for people to know that that's more succinct. Do you have any other authors that are books that you have enjoyed in your studies?
There's so many books that I've read, and so many of them have made a profound impression on me that it's very hard to say which one is my favorite. I do like reading Peruker because he is able to talk about what Blavatsky said in a very organized manner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does appear then that reading has been an integral part of your spiritual growth. Would you
Yes,
say that's true? Yes.
yes.
So yeah, reading and studying, that's one of the, the foundations that, meditation and study and service.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very important. So one of the cornerstones of theosophy is service. What is your definition of service? Have y'all had any service projects at your lodge, or have you ever participated in any services? And I know that's a string of questions, so take your time.
Okay. Our study group is comprised of people in the largest metropolitan area in the United States. Houston metropolitan area is as big as New York and New Jersey put together in terms of square miles. So we also have people from other locales who come to our meeting. Detroit, New Mexico, Arkansas. So we have people from all over. Many of us
Oh, well, let me stop you though. So you're meeting on Zoom now?
were meeting on Zoom.
Okay, because you used
Many of us are giving back and making the world a better place by projects that are near and dear to our individual hearts. So, in regards to my path of service, I have a strong business background and volunteer for SCORE. And I help people set up, conceptualize, manage, sell their businesses. I'm also a
Let me ask you,
volunteer,
is SCORE, is that an acronym for something?
Senior Corps of Retired Executives.
Okay. And then you were going to say you also volunteer.
I'm also working for the AARP in their tax program, where they do income tax for people for free.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm also very politically involved
As part of your service, yes.
as part of my service. So in retirement, a great deal of my life is giving back for the many good fortunes that I've encountered in my life.
Well, you worked for a pretty long time, but I know that I didn't think you were ever going to retire. So how long have you been retired?
7.5 years.
7.5 years. Okay, time goes pretty fast.
Yes, yes.
Well, what aspects of Theosophy have most influenced you, or just influenced your life in general?
The objects of the Theosophical movement. Number one, the unity of all life. I take that very seriously, that you and I and everybody else in this world are the experience of life together. And we are all unified at one point. And it's best to bring that out to people and to look at the world as one brotherhood. That's been very influential to me. And then, of course, my study of comparative religion, science, philosophy, and the arts, those excite me. Those get me, they exercise my endorphins. Okay. And the third object is understanding things that the innate powers within each man, and trying to make sense of transpersonal situations that we've had, trying to make sense of synchronistic situations that I've encountered. All of that has been made more clear through my association with Theosophy.
I remember one of the conferences, summer national conferences that we had quite a few years ago. Maybe it was when Dean Radden or someone was there talking about psychic impressions. And he had us draw an object that he had in a bag, and everybody in the room drew it. And you drew the object accurately. You had the most accurate picture in the room of the object. Without having seen it, you drew it. And I'm just wondering about your clairvoyant experiences. Were you having those before, or
Oh,
was it
yes.
something that was, before Theosophy, or did it develop as you got into Theosophy?
I've had them my whole life. They're intermittent. They're not brought on at will, but they occur. And I've always wanted to have an answer. And many times at the Theosophical Society, especially at the summer convention, when we have our guest speakers, and I would call them subject matter experts, I've been able to have heart-to-heart talks with them, getting their feeling, their interpretation on certain synchronistic or psychic occurrences of mine.
Wow, yeah. So did it also help you integrate these gifts and feel more at home when you're around the other theosophists?
Other theosophists have the same curiosity, have the same interests, and through their individual or their analysis, they're very interested in finding people who've had similar experiences and together putting their heads together to make sense out of what happened.
At our last meeting of the our group here in Charleston, I asked the question, did anyone have a problem finding people they could really talk to about these matters? And did they really enjoy being able to come to a theosophical meeting so that they could talk freely? And everybody raised their hand. It's like, yes, there's very few places we can talk about these things. And I don't think it's that they're trying to keep them secret. I think that just people don't understand. And
People do not understand. And these occurrences do not happen to me on a continual basis. They come infrequently, but they come at pivotal times in my life and give me answers that are right in front of me, or meeting people, or finding synchronicity with one person or another person.
yeah, synchronicity. So have you had a lot of synchronicity in your life?
A real lot.
And I'm thinking that people know what synchronicity is, but just in case, would you just tell us what synchronicity is?
Differences or coming together divergent thoughts from divergent sources that one would not usually get. A big synchronicity happened to me when there were rumors at the company I worked for 33 years that we were going to move to Houston. Well, everybody except me dismissed it because I kept meeting people or connecting with people who knew right from the source that we were moving. And I was fully prepared when they made the announcement because of the reinforcement of the information and the data that was provided to me beforehand. So the change process is like the grieving process. And it's very hard to get over the hump and to incorporate the new situation in your personal paradigm. And yet, when the announcement was made, I had already gone through the change process because of all the information. And I'm talking about multiple sources that was provided to me in the most unusual ways. And I accepted the offer to move to Houston. That's just one example.
No, it sounds like this synchronistic event was providing a little, it was leading you and it was providing guidance for you to move to.
It was providing guidance.
And support. It was emotional support in a way to let you know what's up.
Meeting people, talking to people. I'll just give you one example. Good friend had a friend who was a member of her church's singles group. One man gets up at the singles group and says, this was the board of directors of this singles group, I won't be able to be involved. My company is planning a big move and I'm going to be in charge of it. Now, don't forget, this was the board of the singles group. This friend of a friend called me up and said, you work with this man, and gave his name. Yeah, I work with him. Oh, you're moving. The company is moving. But it was little things like that
Right.
that came to me, the synchronicity of people just matter-of-factly saying, well, I heard this at a meeting, or I know this as a fact. when everybody, including most mid-level management at the company I was with, found it absolutely ridiculous that we were moving because a commitment was made by this particular company to stay and grow in the Denver area.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And
Yeah,
then you
but
did.
there were multitude of occurrences.
I do understand. Yes. And we're going to switch a little bit. Have you been to, I know you've been to some summer national conventions. What do you think about those? Have they been helpful in your growth?
They've been tremendously helpful in my growth. Not only listening to the guest speakers, but to be around like-minded people where you can, from all parts of the country and out of the country, where you can talk about the most interesting topics that you might not talk about with your friends from the health club.
Yes, it's a smorgasbord of
Yes,
interesting conversations. That's
yes.
absolutely for sure. Have you been to any of the Federation meetings?
Yes, for 32 years, I've been in attendance at the Federation of Theosophists,
That you
uh,
cut out, so you said the Texas Federation.
Texas
Yes.
Federation,
Okay.
and 1 year I was president of it
Okay. So
many years ago. It is a group of people, as you know, Anne, you lived here for quite a few years. It is Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, New Braunfels, Austin. It brings people together from all over the great state of Texas.
yes, it's wonderful if you can go. If you can't go to Summer National and you do have a federation in your area, it's really great to be able to attend one of those. Do you have family members that you do you think are like-minded, or you can discuss any of these things with, or
No, no,
you have to pretty much, this is your group here, the Theosophical group.
yes, it is our West Houston group that I feel that I can talk to and
Do you feel
different
like, I'm sorry.
share different spiritual experiences or questions I have on a lecture I attended, a book that I've read, a movie that I've seen.
Do you feel like the Theosophical members are your family? You said you didn't have family you could talk to, but do they feel like family, like your
They
spirit?
are part of my extended family. They are very dear and near to my heart.
It's amazing. We don't have to get together that often to feel very, very tight with each other.
Yes,
You know, just a meeting here and there and a Zoom here and there, and we're all very connected. I know that I had the experience when I first went to a summer national convention. It was like, oh my gosh, my family's already here, and now I'm going to meet them. Oh my goodness. I I did ask you about your books. Did you have any particular book? You said the writings, the collected writings of Blavatsky. Was that your favorite of the theosophical works that you read?
yes, yes, it was purely because um, in each of the collective writings, subject is focused on more rather than divergent thoughts popping in from Blavatsky.
Ah, that's
I
good. Yeah, so yeah, precise and to the point. That I think I don't know how many volumes are there? They're very big, or they're
they're
five.
very, very big.
They're big. They're so big. Oh my gosh. Well, that's amazing that you have been through those. If I ever need to know anything, I'll give you a call. Oh, well, it's been great talking to you today. I wondered if there's any other area of theosophy or anything about your life that you might like people to know that I haven't covered.
Theosophy has played a big part in my life, and I would encourage people to join, to get involved, to get that inward fulfillment that one could get with like-minded people, and to be exposed to the wealth of information that is provided by the theosophical literature that is available. And it's available. All you have to do is go to Kindle and you can have a library instantaneously.
Yes, and there's so much online free. There's so many PDFs, and then of course there's the books as well. Barbara, I want to thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Yes, looking forward to it.